A young artist on Twitter ended up embroiled in another controversy, and it's the same artist that did the fan art of Dandadan where they race changed the characters to black. By the way, I've already made a video about that scenario as well, and I kept the artist name censored throughout the video because they're 16 years old and I did not want any hate or anything sent towards the artist. Their art piece ended up being like the one that was used as an example on Twitter, and I don't think it's fair to somebody that young to be embroiled in such a controversy that isn't even really about them specifically. So we'll see in editing, but I likely will keep them anonymous in this video as well because I don't want any hate sent towards them because again, they're 16 years old. Please do not send hate to this artist. But this was the piece in question. It was the art piece of, I absolutely forgot her name actually, and Okarun from Dandadan. So after that post and thankfully everything died down, they made a commission for two people who requested some Dandadan commission. I think the art piece looks really cute. It is of two individuals drawn as, again, Okarun in the like turbo granny form, and I forgot her name. Ayaka, I think, right? And then another artist by the name of Stink Ichigo had made a post about that commission, and they had then taken their tweet down. I unfortunately did not see the tweet, and it is yeeted off the internet now. In response to that call out post that was made by Ichigo, the Dandadan artist then made another post clarifying their side, writing, "Guys, I just did what they asked me." So here we have DMs between the artist and the person who commissioned them, where the artist was like, "Do you have any references?" And the person who commissioned them sent an art piece and said, "My boyfriend chose this pose, so bear with me." And this art piece again is of Okarun in the turbo granny form and Momo. I remembered her name, Momo. And they're in a very, very distinct pose where Momo is kind of like standing with her arms upstretched above her head. Okarun is squatting with his head leaning against her waist with the mask half on, kind of like hanging off his face. And then some more DMs where the artist says, "So for the pose, would I stop at the waist?" And the commissioner says yes. Oh, also I forgot to mention that you can put stockings or mesh pants underneath the skirt. And the artist reacted with a thumbs up. And then Ichigo makes a post clarifying the situation with the artist. And they showcase the side by side of the art pieces. And I will say, like, I believe this one by Ichigo might have been the post that was then deleted because it's no longer on their page from what I could see, but could be wrong. And I would say when I first saw the side by side, I was like, ooh, again, that was before reading everything. So Ichigo writes, "So yesterday I woke up and found a lot of notifications from X and I was pretty confused as I was scrolling through them. It seems like the artist was commissioned by somebody to draw them as Okarun and Momo and sent my art as a reference not knowing who actually made the work." Because again, they sent an art piece where it says "born to pose like this" and there is a TikTok handle on the art piece. It looks like it was a screenshot. And Ichigo says, "Now this connects to the fact that, if you didn't know, this specific piece has been reposted and stolen for selling purposes without my knowledge. A lot of people believe that this piece is official art, but I posted the speed paint on TikTok and that's where it blew up." So this is the original art piece that Ichigo made, and as you can see, it got 643,000 likes on TikTok. And Ichigo adds, "So I wouldn't be surprised if the commissioner thought it was official art, even because I make my watermarks as small as possible and not too noticeable because I don't want to ruin the feel of the piece. I was overwhelmed by the fact that this piece almost feels like a curse." And here we have some anime graphic tee website or like a TikTok account, right, where they're selling like anime fashion. And as you can see, they write Momo X Okarun, and it is the stolen art piece from Ichigo, like literally Ichigo's piece slapped on what looks like a crew neck. Ichigo continues, "It felt like it was here just to bring me discomfort, and since I'm already not doing too well, I let my discomfort show in the situation. I do admit that I'm not happy of this, but it's true that even at first I thought it was traced, it's clearly not." And as you can see, they overlap the piece together, and there is no overlapping lines or anything between the art piece made by the artist and Ichigo's original piece. And I'm using the word original just because Ichigo drew it first. "I never had any issues with the artist, nor against what some people said. I was not looking for attention or trying to send hate towards her. The artist does not deserve hate, and between the two of us, it's clear that she's the one that received the most of it, and I'm not okay with it." And again, that's likely in reference to that original piece I showed you guys that became a really big debated topic on Twitter. Ichigo continues, "It's true. I had this picture as a reference, and I don't own the pose, and I'm fully aware of it. You can stop bringing it up now. I'm sorry for the way I reacted. I said I was overwhelmed and didn't think too clearly." And here is a photo with two people tagged, one person by the name of Isabella Lay and the other person by the name of Gana_Bogdan. And they're again standing in a very similar pose to the one that Ichigo Ichigo drew. After responding to like literally 2/3 of the comments out of the ones that I kept on receiving through the day, I realized I had to fix the situation in private. I had already received an apology from her through my messages, but I wanted to personally apologize too. I didn't want any of this to start. I understand that many people have different opinions on the situation just like me, but at the moment I really want to put an end to this. I don't care if the artist used my piece as a reference anymore as long as there's peace between us. And after talking, it's clear that we have no harsh feelings against each other, and we aren't also holding grudges. Stop sending hate towards all of us, commissioner included. It's true that they could have looked for the source of the drawing, but I can't blame them. As I said, that drawing has been reposted so many times that pretty much nobody knew who it belonged to. I had a talk with both of them and we cleared the situation. It's a ridiculous drama that shouldn't have started in the first place, and it's still unnecessarily going. To the people who like spreading hate instead of giving helpful criticism or just teaching something in a simple, harmless way, please go take a walk and breathe some fresh air before putting your hands on a keyboard again. Thanks. This is all. Again, no harsh feelings towards the artist at all. I just want everything to be chill and grow a nice community as I stay in this app and especially make friends instead of enemies. Thanks for taking your time to read this. Please show some support to the artist in this hard situation. Hope everyone is having a great day and night. After reading over the situation, it seems like there were so many steps of small misunderstandings brewing up to where it led to the situation. For me personally, I can empathize with Ichigo because seeing the similarities on the piece, I can see how they probably felt uncomfortable with the level of similarity between the pieces, namely the posing, the fact that it's the same characters, even though they are drawn differently, right? There are some similar aspects to it, one of them being like the specific choice to keep Okurun's half mask on. Normally in the anime, when Okurun is in Turbo Granny mode, Okurun has the entire mask on his face, so having half the mask hanging there is kind of an artistic choice that was then carried through in the art piece that was essentially kind of like really taken inspiration from. But it's like multiple steps, right? I don't think it's the commissioner's fault at all for grabbing somebody's art piece and using it as a reference. Do I hope that you guys would know better? I do. But I don't expect average consumers or just average day-to-day people to understand kind of like the nitty-gritty ethics of art and art referencing, commissions, etc., right? It is very, very normal in commissions for people who want artwork commissioned to send reference work from other artists as examples because they're like, I like this, I like this, I like this. I would say ethically, the artist should not completely remake somebody else's piece. As in, like, there's only one reference. You know what I mean? Like, if I really, really liked this one art piece and I give it to the artist and I'm like, can you remake this but just stick my face on there? I don't think that's necessarily very ethical, even though the art piece was not traced and it was literally redrawn by somebody else, because you're starting to tread too many lines there. And the way this could be stopped is, again, if the commissioner from the get-go offered more than one reference piece. So maybe like, I like this pose, but I like this outfit, but I like this facial expression, but I like the way the hand looks in this. And like, again, you bring all the reference pieces together and then now we can make a piece that is uniquely individual. I think that could have avoided all of that. But again, I don't expect non-artists to understand that. So I don't fault the commissioners whatsoever. And again, like Ichigo mentioned as well, Ichigo recognized that their art piece was one that became extremely popular to where a lot of people assumed it was official art. So that is a testament to how good their art was and how amazing the quality is. But yeah, again, there is that thing too where the commissioners could have thought, hey, I don't want to grab like another artist's work. Here's some official artwork that I'm going to use as a reference instead, and completely not realizing. So again, I don't expect non-artists to kind of understand the nuances of it, so I'm not faulting the commissioners. I would say if you are an artist receiving a commission, ideally if somebody presents you somebody's artwork and asks you to remake it, I personally don't feel comfortable doing that. If somebody commissions me and they're like, I like this artwork, just change this one aspect, like give it a helmet instead. I don't feel comfortable doing that because I'm essentially like recreating somebody else's essence into another piece. That's just me personally. I would ask for some other references, something else so we can kind of like get some more pieces together so I'm not referencing only one artist's singular art piece. But again, right? Like one, they are a young artist and look, like I know that now, but me at 16 years old, I would have not realized that at 16. So secondly as well, again, right? Like again, like Ichigo said, a lot of people assumed it was just an actual art piece produced by Dandadan. If you're under that assumption as well, the artist does a lot of edits, things like that, right? And if you just take like the official art piece, the ethics around reproducing something like that is a lot different. If they were under that assumption as well, then I can completely see how, they might see that one piece and be like, oh, that's official art. Yeah, I can redraw that for you. Like, don't worry about it. I don't fault the artist either, actually, in that situation, because I can see how there could be a misunderstanding. They're young. I can see how they assumed that it could have been official art, whatever. So I do see where that could be coming from as well. And then There's also the side of Ichigo where I didn't see the original call out post, so the severity of the call out post would change my opinion. But, I can understand too from Ichigo's point of view how they might look at it and be like, oh, I'm a little uncomfortable at how similar it looks to my piece. Even though it's not traced, right? It is a completely redrawn piece. There's a lot of essence of Ichigo's piece kind of in there. The whole thing is this comes from referencing only one artwork. If you only reference one art piece from somebody, it's bound to end up looking similar to the original art piece. And even if he didn't intend to like copy, trace, whatever, it's gonna look really similar. So there's just kind of like that fine line to walk. If I were in that scenario, would I make a call out post if somebody like kind of took my art piece and redrew it in their own way? I wouldn't. I can see how something like that could make an artist uncomfortable. So the artist makes their own tweet writing. We've talked about it and we just realized it was a misunderstanding. And then somebody asks what was there to address and the artist replies, LMAO, that I wasn't tracing, I think. And Aster writes, literally nothing to address, I'm crying. And the artist says, crying emoji. And like people on the internet are kind of 50-50 about this. We have Twitter user Ari writing, there is no way this guy's used a photo as a reference and now is saying they heavily referenced their art and sold it. You used the photo as a reference to make your art and she used your art as a reference for hers. There was no stealing or tracing from no one. It's a pose. Again, with the 3 images. Again, there's always a discourse as to like, nobody owns a pose or this, that, and the third. It always is an interesting situation to kind of walk. And I think the following tweet that I can read you might add a little bit more clarity. We have this person, Darkmon, writing, there's a big difference between copying a photo and an artwork somebody worked on for hours. Why do you think most artist references use photos instead of other artists' artwork? Because that's what you call plagiarism. And this is a photo that I've actually referenced in the past as well that was attached. Oh my god. Let me search for the original artist of that photo. So from my understanding, that original graphic was made by this user on DeviantArt by the name of Skeleon. I hope I read that right. Where they call it my chart. But going back to the chart, it is a tier of traced to just reference, right? Where the trace is literally basically 1-to-1 with like maybe 1 or 2 things changed. Right here, the tail is changed. And they labeled this one as tracing. Highly referenced, a lot of aspects are still really similar, at least over 50%, but a couple of things are changed. They write, highly referencing is when you look at somebody's work and try to duplicate it line for line. Even if you change things slightly, it shouldn't be posted, or at least you should contact the artist for permission. Highly referencing is a great learning tool for helping you learn how an artist does things. Can even help add some of their own style elements to your own, but shouldn't be posted without permission. And referencing is when you look at it and you add a few key elements. I would say again, the work does err anywhere between highly referenced to reference. It's definitely not traced. It's definitely somewhere in the middle ground here. Again, in my personal opinion, there's enough grounds for a little bit of discomfort from Ichigo, but I personally wouldn't have made a call out post about it because it's not enough in my opinion. But I don't think the artist who did it had any ill intent with what they were doing. I don't think they saw the piece and was like, oh my god, yeah, here's this like art piece made by this small artist, because again, there's a big following difference with the artist having 55K and Ichigo having, I believe, like around like 890, like 900. But yeah, it is pretty similar. And again, with the pose thing, people always like to argue, oh, like nobody owns the pose. I would actually argue if an artist had made the pose, as in it's not like somebody else and then the artist referenced that pose, then you don't own the pose because you referenced another photo. Like in this case with Ichigo referencing a photo. There's been cases where it's like 2D anime characters and the artist specifically like drew that pose that's very unique to them, and then people traced the pose 1-to-1 and then drew over it and then added different elements, so like maybe made the hair longer and added a dress instead of pants. Okay, you're starting to tread into the highly referenced tracing area here of this chart. It's always like a really kind of muddy gray area where people on the internet like to debate the whole can you own a pose, can you not own a pose thing. So I'm really curious about your thoughts on this whole situation. What do you think about the scenario if your art piece was then referenced by somebody else for a commission in this manner? How would you feel about it? I don't think the artist was malicious whatsoever. Somebody would approach them for a commission, they sent a reference piece, they just did what they were asked. And again, they're really young and it seems very likely they could have assumed, like what Ichigo said, that it was official art. I don't want any more hate sent to the artist. Like, please don't send hate to any of these parties involved. I'll keep the artist anonymous for the reason of I don't want any hate sent towards them. They're only 16, and when I was 16 years old, I did not have the ability to understand all of the nuances about art, all of these things, like what is ethical reference, all of that. Like, bro, first started playing League of Legends when I was 16 years old, okay? So you only know that it went downhill from there. I'm curious about your thoughts. I would love to hear it respectfully in the comment section down below. And if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like to subscribe. I have an Etsy shop where I sell some like emotes, overlay, stuff like that. I also stream on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST. So I hope to catch you guys there or in another one of my videos. Peace.